We hope you have a great free comic book day. From the shop that started it all, it's our final free comic book day here. We hope everyone keeps the tradition going for many years to come. So happy free comic book day, y'all. I was writing columns for an industry trade magazine, and back in April 2001 I was scrambling for a deadline and looked outside my front window here and saw a line, and that line was going to Baskin-Robbins free scoop night. And I thought, we could do that for comics. The only thing cooler than ice cream is comics. So I put the column together and sent it off and asked for industry response at the same time my column was published in the magazine. And it was a pretty unanimous response that we really needed to do something. And it was a good invitation for people to come into comic shops. Well, after the column was published and there was some sort of enthusiasm for it from the publishers, we had a meeting at a convention in Las Vegas just a few weeks after 9/11. So it was like the first flight out for a lot of people from New York to come west. And so we sat in this room with publisher reps from all the major publishers, from my publisher, which was Krause Publications. So Maggie Thompson was in the room, and reps from Diamond Comic Distributors. And basically the question was asked, okay, do we do this? And everyone looked around it and said, we have to do this. It was really a watershed moment, because publishers have a tendency not to agree about anything, but they were really agreeable about this. And I think some of it was the raw time post 9/11, but I think some of it was that had just come through a pretty rocky time of the distributor wars of the 90s, and sort of not a great sales period from like 1997 to 2000. So good things were happening in comics, but we just had no mechanism to invite people in to check out the good stuff going on. And Free Comic Book Day became that invitation for people to go into comic book stores and see that just the wide variety of stuff that we have for readers of all ages and interests, and to see the fun that people have when they're reading comics and enjoying the stories. There's always some hesitancy when anything new is tried, and so there were some people who were, maybe a little bit skittish to give it a shot. That first year, I think we had 4 publishers. We had Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Image, and Dark Horse that did free comic book day special editions. There were other publishers, including Oni Press, that actually contributed backstock to the event. So it started, relatively modestly with the main publishers, but it was a big hit from the start. So everyone loves a winner, and so publishers started to jump on, and retailers really jumped on. So I think prior to the pandemic, at its height, Free Comic Book Day was happening in more than 60 countries with more than 2,000 comic shops, and somewhere along the lines of 5 or 6 million comics a year were being given away. Yeah, the first Free Comic Book Day at Flying Colors was a lot of fun. Obviously, we got a lot of good publicity because we were starting something new, and our 2 guests that day were artist Mick Gray, who was working for DC Comics at the time, and independent artist Jason Doobie from Scattered Comics. And they sketched and drew for fans, and we started sort of the tradition then of having a cake and just making it a party. And we had hundreds of people roll through here during the course of that day, and it was just a happy, feel-good event. And that's what we've tried to make it every year since. Well, on a wider level, I'm not all that involved with the international promotion of the event. Most of that is in the hands of the publishers, mostly in the hands of Diamond Comic Distributors. So naturally there were a lot of press releases that went out, and a lot of coverage in papers and on TV news stations, that sort of thing. and that's continued. It's been pretty interesting to see everywhere it goes, and we also have a lot of school and public libraries that are involved now, and so it's something that continues to evolve, and I think we have about 1 million people a year that visit stores and libraries for a free comic book day. So it is the world's largest comic book related event. Yeah, it's sort of mixed emotions, to be honest. We are hoping that we find a new location to move to and be able to continue what we do. That's still a little bit up in the air right now. But I'm very grateful to everybody who's been so enthusiastic about coming here for Free Comic Book Day. One thing what we love is to see the crowds here on Free Comic Book Day, and what we hope is all those people who come here for the free comics on Free Comic Book Day will come back and maybe buy some stuff during the course of the rest of the year. There are a lot of people who do that, but then there are a lot of people who are just in for the freebies, and the last thing I want to hear every year is someone who leaves the store saying, okay, see you next year on Free Comic Book Day. I want to see you before then. That's the point of it, is to excite new readers, to call back former readers, and to thank current fans. And the best way that happens is when we see people show up to Free Comic Book Day for the first time, or returning to a store for the first time in years, and having a good time, finding something that they can sink their teeth into and come back to and want to read month in and month out. And that's also where our Flying Colors Retailing Brigade comes in, because when people come in and they need recommendations, the whole staff here is ready to give those recommendations and keep people excited about what they're reading, and keep them engaged about what they like, what they don't like, and really find the stuff that's going to keep them as happy readers. Prior to having the shop here, I was in radio for 10 years, and one of the things that happened there is I wound up doing public relations work for the people who were getting WonderCon started in Oakland, and those were some Bay Area comic book retailers and other professionals in comics, and I just noticed what a good time they were having, and I wasn't really necessarily having much of a good time in my job in radio anymore, and I wanted to be happy in my work, and so I knew that getting into comics was not going to be a huge money maker. It wasn't going to be something that put me on easy street, but it was going to be something that was going to bring a lot of happiness to a lot of people. It was going to be something that allowed us to build a community, to make new friends, to be a really happy part of the lives of a lot of people. And for me, that's worth a whole lot more than whatever money I've got in my pocket. And I think the thing that we are really wanting to continue is to find a way to keep the community going, and that's why we really want to find a different location and keep Flying Colors alive and thriving. Don't know how it's going to work out, so we hope that soon we'll have some ways that people might be able to help us in that endeavor. But it's really it's all about the community, and the community's been really good to us, and we've tried to be good in return, and that's a good life.
Well, I've been coming here since week 1.
Wow.
I used to live around the corner, and I drove by and saw the sign. They were open, and I've been here every week since 1988. And I've become friends with Joe, and I come in because I'm a big comic fan. Have been for all my life, and I'm an old guy. This is the best store that I've run into. Been in a lot of comic book stores, and this is probably the best store in the country, I think.
So I've been coming here, I forget the amount of years. I just tell people the death of Superman, when that story came out, that's when I first came here. And I know that because all my friends, when stories like that come out, my friends are like, oh, that sounds nice, get me a comic book, who don't collect. And I'm like, all right, yeah, that's fine, because I'll be the cool guy and get it for you. And so I was getting multiple copies, and everybody was doing that. Like at the time I was going to a place in Berkeley called Comics and Comics. But when I came here, Joe was like, nope, only one copy per person. And at the time I was like, oh man, that's nuts. I don't want to, how can a person do that? I didn't know at the time that was the right move, because that way everybody ensures that they get to read the story. And a comic book store proprietor doesn't do that. Someone who cares about the community does that. And years go by, other reasons, it's closer to my house. But that story keeps coming back to me, because it just shows that Joe not only runs the comic store, he cares about the community, he cares about actual people who collect comics. He always has. I've known him since that long. He always will. And that's why I keep coming here.
Oh, regularly we've had over the years people who were regular buyers here who got into the industry or are in animation, or a couple of staff members went off to Industrial Light and Magic. We've got one who's written something like 20 books now. One of our regular customers is a very best-selling urban fantasy author, Shauna McGuire. There's another author, Matt Michelatos, who writes Christian books and has done really well with that. There are artists who've come through here that have gone on to really good things. Jim Lee did his first store appearance here. We were at the beginning of Jeff Johnson's career when he got the Wonder Man assignment for Marvel Comics. We've tried to help young creators where we can, and sometimes that's by not carrying their books. Actually, it's by trying to teach them what the business is like, and we're supportive to anybody who wants to be creative, and I think that's another way we build community.